In the silence of space, stars shine like secrets waiting to be uncovered. But down here, on Earth, beneath the glowing lights of Riverton, lies a secret darker than the night sky itself. A story of shadows, courage, and betrayal. A story that would forever change the meaning of the word unbreakable. The city of Riverton was alive that summer. Neon lights danced across the streets, laughter spilt from late-night cafes, and the sound of music echoed through alleyways. To outsiders, Riverton looked like a dream, a modern city built on history, where old stone buildings met glass towers that sparkled like constellations. But like space itself, Riverton had layers of mystery. Beneath the beauty and glamour, beneath the polished surface of its nightlife, ran a hidden world. A world of sewers, tunnels, and forgotten passageways where no one dared to look. At the heart of the city stood the Grand Central Bank, a towering building that seemed untouchable. For years, it had guarded the fortunes of the wealthy, the secrets of the powerful, and the treasures of generations. People called it the Fortress of Riverton. The bank's vault was a marvel of engineering. Its door weighed 20 tons, made of reinforced steel, and its walls were thicker than any military bunker. To the citizens, this vault was more than just a room. It was a symbol of security, a promise that what you placed inside would never be touched. But every fortress has a weakness. Every star has a shadow. And while the people of Riverton slept peacefully, believing their valuables were safe, someone else looked at the bank not with trust, but with hunger. That someone was Victor. On the surface, Victor was ordinary. He walked through the markets carrying his camera, taking portraits of smiling children and elderly couples. He captured weddings, birthdays, and city festivals. People trusted him because he looked harmless, polite, soft-spoken, and always smiling. But behind his quiet eyes lived a restless mind. Victor was fascinated not by the moments he captured with his camera, but by the hidden details others ignored. The shadows in an alley, the cracks in a wall, the flaws in something built to last. Late at night, while the rest of Riverton slept, Victor often sat alone in his studio, staring at blueprints and maps. One evening, he stumbled upon a piece of history that would ignite a fire within him: the forgotten sewer system of Riverton. A sprawling web of tunnels built centuries ago runs directly beneath the Grand Central Bank. The discovery was like a star exploding in his mind. He stared at the maps for hours, tracing lines with his finger, imagining the impossible. A thought gripped him. If the vault could not be opened from the outside, what about from below? Victor knew it was madness. The vault was unbreakable, the bank untouchable, the city proud of its fortress. But the more he thought, the more the idea consumed him. He felt as if destiny had chosen him to challenge the impossible, and so a plan began to form. Slowly, carefully, quietly, the city above carried on, unaware. People laughed in the cafes, lovers walked by the river, and children played in the parks. But beneath their feet, beneath the glow of neon lights, Victor dreamed of something that would shake the very heart of Riverton. Because what happens in the silence of space? Stars explode, worlds collapse, and darkness devours the light. In Riverton, that darkness was coming, and it was wearing the face of a quiet photographer. Victor's life appeared so ordinary that no one in Riverton would have suspected the storm gathering inside his mind. He was a man who blended effortlessly into the background. With his old camera hanging from his neck, he walked the crowded markets, capturing portraits of vendors, mothers with children, and friends laughing on street corners. People welcomed him because he seemed harmless, just another dreamer making a living by freezing moments in time. But Victor was not fascinated by smiles or celebrations. He was drawn to the unnoticed details hidden in plain sight. A lock that had rusted, a wall that had cracked, a door frame slightly uneven. His lens often wandered to shadows, to corners where others would never look. Every photo he captured was, in truth, a study of flaws, weaknesses, and forgotten spaces. When Victor returned to his small studio at night, he spent hours not with photographs, but with maps and blueprints. His room was littered with rolled-up documents, scribbled notes, and sketches that stretched across the floor. He searched for patterns, for hidden connections in the city's veins. Riverton's beauty was above the surface, but what fascinated him most lay beneath. It was there, in a dusty archive one late evening, that Victor discovered a key to his destiny. Among stacks of yellowed papers and city records, he found the sewer maps of Riverton. They were old, cracked, and nearly forgotten. But as he studied them, his heart began to race. The tunnels stretched far beneath the streets, weaving like roots of a massive tree. And at the center of that root system, Victor saw it, a path leading directly under the Grand Central Bank. At first, the thought felt like a spark, a dangerous daydream. He traced the tunnels with his finger again and again, whispering to himself. Could it be possible? Could the city's most unbreakable vault be reached from below, where no one was watching? The more Victor thought about it, the less it felt like madness, and the more it felt like destiny. He knew he could not attempt this dream alone. The sewer system was dangerous, the work exhausting, and the bank's vault demanded skills beyond his own. If he wanted to turn this vision into reality, he would need a team. And so, quietly, Victor began to search. He did not look for criminals. He looked for men like himself, ordinary on the outside, extraordinary in talent. His first recruit was a welder, a man known for his steady hands and calm patience. Next came a locksmith, a quiet genius who could read the language of locks as if they were words on a page. Finally, he found a digger, a man whose life had been spent working underground, moving earth, and building foundations. Each man was cautious when Victor first approached. His idea sounded impossible, dangerous, even foolish. But when Victor unfolded the sewer maps and explained the plan with calm conviction, their hesitation slowly shifted into belief. It wasn't just about treasure, he told them. It was about proving that no wall, no vault, no system of power was truly beyond human reach. In the nights that followed, the team met in secrecy. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices echoing in Victor's dimly lit studio. The sewer maps lay across the table, and one by one they studied every line, every possible route, every risk. Mistakes could not be allowed. One wrong move, one careless decision, and their dream would collapse. And so, their journey began. Not yet in the sewers, but in the silence of planning. Above them, Riverton sparkled with life, unaware of the men preparing to challenge its greatest fortress. Below, in the quiet of Victor's studio, destiny was being drawn line by line. Victor had always believed that every photograph told a hidden story. Now, for the first time, he was writing his own, and this story would not be captured on paper. It would be carved beneath the streets of Riverton, in shadows no light could reach. The first night Victor and his crew descended into the Riverton sewers, the air was thick and heavy. The smell of damp earth and stagnant water wrapped around them, clinging to their clothes. Their footsteps echoed through the tunnels, creating a rhythm that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. For the first time, their plan was no longer ink on paper. It was alive beneath their feet. The team carried lanterns and tools wrapped in cloth to silence the sound. The welder, Marcus, walked with steady confidence, his eyes fixed on the tunnel ahead. Behind him moved Elias, the locksmith, who kept his gaze low, already imagining the locks they might face. And at the rear was Thomas, the digger, his hands stained with dirt before the work had even begun. Victor led the way, the sewer maps rolled carefully in his pocket, his heart pounding like a drum. They paused at a narrow junction where 3 tunnels branched into darkness. Victor unfolded the fragile maps, the paper trembling slightly in his hands. "This way," he whispered, pointing to the passage leading east. His voice carried a weight that silenced the others. No one argued. They trusted him. Work began slowly. Thomas drove his tools into the damp soil, carving the first marks of their secret tunnel. The sound was muffled, swallowed by the endless tunnels, but every strike felt like thunder in Victor's chest. Marcus reinforced the sides with wooden boards, preventing collapse, while Elias measured carefully, making sure their direction never strayed from the plan. Hours passed in silence except for the sound of shovels and hammers. Sweat poured from their foreheads, their lungs heavy with the thick, stale air. Yet none of them complained. Every inch of earth they removed brought them closer to the vault. Every breath of suffocating sewer air was a step toward something greater. As days turned into weeks, the tunnel grew longer, stretching like a hidden artery beneath Riverton. They worked only at night, vanishing into Thessady's shadows before slipping underground. By day, they returned to their ordinary lives, Victor taking photographs at the marketplace, Marcus repairing pipes, Elias tinkering with locks in his workshop, and Thomas blending in among construction workers. Above ground, they were invisible. Below, they were building a path to history, but the sewers were not forgiving. The damp walls dripped constantly, and the air threatened to choke them. Once a wooden support cracked, sending soil raining down onto their backs. They froze, terrified that the tunnel would collapse. It was Thomas who steadied them, his calm voice cutting through the panic. "Hold the boards. Don't move. Slowly, carefully, they braced the wall and replaced the broken support. When the danger passed, Victor realized something. Their survival depended not just on skill, but on trust. Each man began to see the others not as partners in crime, but as brothers bound by a secret greater than themselves. They ate together in silence, shared water when their throats burned, and carried each other through exhaustion. And as the tunnel drew closer to its destination, Victor felt the weight of destiny pressing heavier on his shoulders. He often lay awake in his studio, staring at the maps lit by a single candle. Doubts whispered at the edges of his mind. What if they were caught? What if the vault truly was unbreakable? What if their dream collapsed along with the tunnel? But in the morning, when he looked at the photographs on his wall, smiling faces, glittering streets, moments of fleeting joy, he reminded himself why he continued. Those people believed the vault could never be touched. They believed in walls built to keep power in the hands of the few. Victor wanted to prove them wrong. By the end of the third month, the tunnel had grown long enough that every strike of Thomas's shovel echoed differently. The sound was faint, hollow, almost metallic. Marcus pressed his ear against the soil and whispered, "We're close." Victor's pulse raced. The vault was no longer just a dream written on maps. It was there, just beyond the wall of earth. The crew exchanged silent glances. For the first time, the impossible felt within reach. The fortress of Riverton had guarded its treasures for decades. But now, beneath the city's glowing lights, 4 men had carved a secret path. A path that led directly to the heart of the Unbreakable. And soon, the city would learn that no vault is safe forever. The night was silent when Victor finally decided. After months of planning, digging, and near disasters, their path had reached its end. The hollow echo of Marcus's ear against the wall had told them what they needed to know. The vault was close, too close to wait any longer. "Tomorrow," Victor whispered as the 4 men huddled in the damp tunnel, lantern light flickering against their exhausted faces. "No more delays. Tomorrow night we open it." No one argued. Each man knew the risks. Once they crossed that line, there would be no turning back. The next evening, while Riverton's streets glittered with laughter and music, the men descended once more into the sewers. They carried only what was necessary, tools wrapped in cloth, bags for treasures, and the resolve of men who had chosen their fate. As they reached the end of their tunnel, the air felt heavier, almost electric. Thomas struck the soil carefully, each blow sending vibrations through their bones. Then, suddenly, the shovel struck something hard. The sound rang different, metallic, deep. The men froze, their breaths caught in their throats. They had touched the vault. The final breakthrough was slow, deliberate. Marcus used his welder's tools to cut away pieces of reinforced steel hidden behind layers of soil. Sparks hissed in the darkness, lighting their faces in fleeting bursts. Each spark felt like a heartbeat, reminding them of how close they were to discovery. Finally, after hours of painstaking work, an opening revealed itself. The men climbed through the narrow hole, crawling one by one into the belly of the beast. When Victor stepped into the vault, he stopped and stared in awe. The walls towered around them, lined with hundreds of safe deposit boxes, each one hiding secrets worth more than gold. The vault was colder than he expected, the silence suffocating. Marcus moved quickly to the massive vault door. With steady hands, he welded the hinges shut from the inside. The sparks flew again, and soon the door was sealed. No one from the outside could disturb them now. They were locked in with time on their side. 27 hours, Victor said quietly. His voice carried both determination and fear. The work began. Elias stepped forward first, his fingers dancing across the locks of the safe deposit boxes. One by one, they yielded to his skill. The sound of tumblers clicking open echoed like whispers in the dark. Each box revealed treasures beyond imagination, jewels that glittered like stars, bundles of cash wrapped tight, gold bars, and personal heirlooms forgotten by time. Thomas and Marcus filled the bags methodically, never rushing, never wasting a second. They worked with the patience of men who knew panic was their greatest enemy. Victor, meanwhile, watched, his heart pounding as the reality of their dream unfolded before his eyes. Hours blurred into each other. They paused only to sip water or wipe sweat from their brows. The vault seemed endless, each box another temptation, another story of wealth and secrecy. At one point, Elias opened a box containing nothing but letters, sealed envelopes, love notes, confessions perhaps never meant to be read. He stared at them for a long moment before quietly placing them aside. Not every treasure could be measured in gold, By dawn, fatigue threatened to break them. Their muscles ached, their hands were raw, but the glint of treasure kept them moving. They were no longer ordinary men. In those hours, they were shadows, phantoms carving their names into history. The city above had no idea. Riverton's citizens awoke to another day of routine, unaware that directly beneath their feet, its greatest fortress was being emptied piece by piece. As the hours stretched into the next night, the bags grew heavy. The floor was littered with open boxes, their secrets laid bare. Marcus finally leaned against the wall, sweat pouring down his face. "We've taken enough to fill 10 lifetimes," he muttered. Victor's eyes scanned the vault one last time. He felt both triumph and unease. They had conquered the Unbreakable, but in doing so, they had stepped into a shadow from which they might never return. "Let's go," he said at last. And with that, the four men vanished back into the tunnels, leaving behind nothing but silence in the vault, a silence that would soon turn into chaos when Riverton discovered what had been lost. That night, the city slept, but history had already changed forever. When dawn broke again over Riverton, the four men emerged from the sewers like ghosts. Their faces were dirty, their clothes damp, but their eyes burned with the fire of victory. On their backs, the bags weighed heavily, but it was not a burden, it was a crown. They had conquered the unthinkable. Victor was the last to climb out of the tunnel. He stood for a moment, staring back at the darkness they had left behind. That tunnel had been their prison, their hope, and their passage into legend. Now it was sealed with memories too powerful to ever fade. They moved quickly through the quiet streets, slipping into alleys and abandoned courtyards until they reached the safe house. Once inside, they dropped the bags, and the sound of metal and jewels clinking together filled the room. For a long moment, no one spoke. They just looked at the mountain of riches before them. Elias finally broke the silence, his voice trembling. "We did it. By God, we actually did it!" Thomas laughed softly, though the sound was laced with exhaustion. "Not just did it. We did the impossible." Marcus sat on the floor, staring at the piles of gold, diamonds, and cash. He rubbed his hands across his face as though trying to wake from a dream. "This isn't real," he whispered. But the gleam of a ruby in his palm told him otherwise. Victor, however, remained calm. He walked slowly around the room, studying the treasure not with greed, but with a strange detachment. He knew what this meant. Riches, yes, but also eyes watching from every corner, police storms, and the promise of betrayal if even one of them faltered. "Don't let this blind you," he said firmly. His voice snapped the others from their haze. "We have won tonight, but this victory will burn us alive if we lose control. Remember why we did this. Remember who we are." The others nodded, though the sparkle of temptation never left their eyes. While the thieves savoured their triumph in secret, Riverton above was beginning to stir. The morning routine of the city flowed as usual until a security guard entered the Société Générale vault. At first he thought nothing was wrong. The door was shut, locked tight as it should be. But as he stepped inside, his heart stopped. The vault was gutted. Hundreds of safe deposit boxes lay open, their contents gone. The floor was littered with scraps of paper and empty casings, like a battlefield after a war. His scream echoed through the stone halls. Within hours, the entire city was alive with panic. Police swarmed the bank, reporters shouted questions, and bankers clutched their heads in disbelief. Never in Riverton's history had such a crime taken place. By afternoon, the news was everywhere. "Unbreakable vault breached," screamed the headlines. "Millions vanished in the night." Families rushed to the bank, desperate to know if their treasures had been spared. Most left in tears. The city's trust had been shattered in a single night. Back in the safe house, the men listened to the radio. The announcer's voice trembled as he described the largest heist in Riverton's history. The gang exchanged looks. Fear, pride, and thrill all tangled together. "We've made history," Marcus said quietly. "Yes," Victor replied, his tone colder. "But history doesn't forgive. They will come for us now." The room grew still. The treasure that had once shone like hope now glittered like a curse. Each man knew the truth. Wealth had bought them freedom, but it had also chained them to a destiny they could not escape. And as the night fell again, Victor sat by the window, staring into the streets below. Somewhere in the shadows, he imagined sirens, footsteps, betrayal. Victory had a taste, but so did fear. For the first time, he wondered, not if they would keep their fortune, but if they would survive it. The morning after the heist, Riverton became a city under siege. Sirens wailed through the streets, police checkpoints sprouted at every intersection, and detectives stormed into neighborhoods searching for whispers of the impossible crime. The vault, once called Unbreakable, now stood humiliated. The press painted it as a fortress turned to sand overnight. Families screamed in anger, the bank's directors hid in shame, and every citizen wanted answers. Who had dared to mock the city so boldly? Inspector Caldwell was the man tasked with finding out. A veteran with steel-gray eyes and a reputation for relentless pursuit, he walked into the crime scene with a silence that chilled even his fellow officers. He studied the welded vault door, the cut in the wall, and the traces of soil on the floor. They came from below, he murmured, crouching to inspect the ground. He ran his fingers across the dirt, smelling it. Sewer earth, damp, cold. Find me the tunnels. Search every inch. By evening, Caldwell had a map of Riverton's underground network laid across his desk. They thought they were clever, he said to his team. But clever thieves always leave shadows behind, and shadows always lead to their masters. Meanwhile, in the safe house, the gang was beginning to feel the noose tighten. Marcus paced back and forth, wringing his hands. They'll find us, Victor. They're tearing the city apart. Calm yourself, Victor replied, though his own voice was quieter than usual. We left no trail. No trail? Marcus snapped. We moved earth, Victor. We left footprints. We carried bags through the streets. What if someone saw us? What if— Enough, Victor said sharply. His eyes cut through Marcus like a blade. Fear is more dangerous than Caldwell. Keep your head, or you'll destroy us yourself. Elias, ever the calmest, tried to diffuse the tension. Victor's right. We've planned too carefully to collapse now. But he's not wrong either, he added, glancing at Marcus. We should stay low, avoid each other for a while. Too many faces together invite suspicion. Thomas, the strong but quiet one, spoke for the first time that night. Money changes men. We have what we wanted, but what if that's the problem? How long before one of us thinks he deserves more than the rest? The words lingered in the air like poison. None of them responded, but each man silently wondered the same thing. That same night, Inspector Caldwell's men found the tunnel's exit in an abandoned corner of the sewer. The evidence was undeniable. Marks from tools, traces of footprints, even burned fragments from Marcus's welding sparks. Caldwell stared into the darkness of the tunnel, his jaw tightening. They were patient, he said softly. They studied this city for months, maybe years. But patience leaves patterns. We'll find them. The investigation spread like fire. Neighbors were questioned. Workers at the bank interrogated, and even sewer engineers were brought in. Rumors filled the streets. Some said the thieves were foreigners. Others swore it was an inside job. At the safe house, the gang listened to the radio reports with heavy hearts. Each announcement felt like a drumbeat drawing closer. Victor's gaze was cold as he finally spoke. We cannot stay here much longer. Caldwell is closing in. We need to disappear before the walls tighten. Disappear? Marcus asked bitterly. And leave this behind? He gestured at the mountain of wealth stacked in crates and bags. Victor's eyes narrowed. We don't carry treasure into the fire. We bury it until the flames die. The others exchanged nervous glances. To bury their prize was unthinkable, yet Victor's words carried weight. Outside, Riverton's nights grew restless. The hunters were sharpening their claws. And deep in the shadows, the hunted were beginning to unravel, not from the police, but from the storm building within their own hearts. The city of Riverton simmered with unrest. Days had passed since the heist, yet the police had no names, no faces, no clear suspects. But Inspector Caldwell was closer than anyone realized. His instincts told him the thieves were still within Riverton, hiding, watching, waiting for the storm to pass. At the safe house, the tension among the four men had reached its peak. The treasure that once united them now stood like a wall dividing their hearts. Victor sat at the head of the wooden table, the lantern casting shadows across his sharp features. We cannot stay here, he repeated firmly. We hide the treasure, scatter for now, and return when it is safe. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. Scatter? Bury everything we bled for? That's madness. I won't give up what's mine. His voice cracked with desperation. Yours? Thomas growled, his eyes dark. Do you think you carried us through those tunnels alone? Every coin, every jewel, we earned it together. Elias tried to intervene, his calm voice breaking through the storm. Fighting will doom us. Victor is right. The gold will wait. Our lives will not. If Caldwell finds us with it, all this means nothing. But Marcus was beyond reason. Greed had poisoned him. He had tasted the wealth, held it in his hands, and he could not imagine letting it go. That night, as the others slept, Marcus slipped away into the shadows. He carried nothing with him but his fear, and a decision that would change everything. At dawn, Inspector Caldwell received an anonymous message. A trembling voice on the other end of the phone whispered about a house near the edge of Riverton, a house where strange men had been coming and going in the dead of night. Caldwell listened silently, his jaw tightening. By afternoon, Riverton's police surrounded the safe house. Inside, Victor woke to the faint crunch of boots on gravel. His instincts screamed. He rushed to the window and froze. Their world was collapsing. Police in dark uniforms were fanning out around the building. "Caldwell!" Victor hissed. The others jolted awake. Panic surged like fire. Thomas grabbed a bag. Elias reached for the maps, but Victor's hand shot up. "No time. Take nothing. We move." But as they ran toward the back door, Marcus's betrayal revealed itself. The exit was already blocked. Officers stormed inside with rifles raised. "Hands where we can see them!" The room erupted in chaos. Elias dropped the maps, his calm cracking for the first time. Thomas tried to shield the others, but 3 officers pinned him against the wall. Victor stood in the center, his eyes searching desperately for a way out. And then he saw Marcus, standing just beyond the door, his face pale, his hands trembling. His eyes refused to meet Victor's. "You," Victor whispered, his voice colder than ice. Marcus's lips quivered. I didn't mean to. I just wanted my share, Victor. I couldn't lose it. I couldn't." The betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. Victor's mind raced. The treasure was lost, their freedom shattered, but there was still one card to play. With sudden force, he lunged at the lantern on the table, hurling it to the ground. Flames erupted, licking across the wooden floor. Smoke filled the air, screams and shouts mingling with the crackle of fire. "Run!" Victor roared. In the chaos, Elias and Thomas fought their way toward a side window. Victor shoved an officer aside, blood pounding in his ears. He locked eyes with Caldwell for a split second, the hunter and the hunted. And then Victor vanished into the smoke. By nightfall, the safe house was reduced to ashes. Dozens of jewels and gold pieces melted into rubble, seized by the authorities. Marcus was taken into custody, his betrayal earning him nothing but handcuffs and shame. Caldwell reported the heist broken, but even he admitted one thing. Victor was gone. So were Elias and Thomas. The city was left buzzing with rumors. Had they perished in the fire or escaped into the night? Months later, in a quiet village far beyond Riverton's borders, whispers stirred of a man who walked with a limp and never showed his face. Some said he carried nothing but a single ruby in his pocket, a reminder of the night he defied a city. Others swore the treasure still lay buried beneath Riverton, waiting for the brave or the foolish to find it. As for Victor, his name became legendary. Some called him a thief, others a mastermind. To his men, he was both leader and ghost. But to Riverton, he was a shadow, a reminder that even the strongest vaults and the strictest laws could not cage the hunger of men. The Riverton Heist would be remembered for generations, not just for what was stolen, but for what it revealed. That in the end, the greatest danger was never the vault, never the police, but the betrayal within. If you enjoy these stories, make sure to subscribe to Black Battlers so you never miss the next one. Your subscription gives us the power to bring you even more emotional and inspiring stories. Join the Black Battlers family today.